Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Canon R5 and giving you my thoughts on why this camera is perfect for the hybrid photo and video shooter. I recently reviewed the Sony a7S III, which has a lot of video-centric features, but the Canon R5 is the best combination of high-performance photo and high-performance video. The Sony a7S III has awesome low light performance, and if you want to see more about that, check out this video here. And I also have a link to my review here. But it can't compete with the 45 megapixel resolution of the Canon R5. When it comes to photos, the Canon R5 shoots 12 frames per second mechanical and 20 frames per second electronic. It has excellent sharpness, dynamic range, and overall color in terms of photos. It also does that while maintaining some impressive video specs. It shoots 4K 120, it shoots 8K, and it has 10-bit color. In addition, it does that while maintaining a 1.6 pound weight for the body and a much needed feature, dual card slots. So now that we've got the specs out of the way, I'm going to talk about my opinions on this camera and why I think it's perfect for the hybrid shooter that does photo and video. So you may know if you've watched this channel that I am a Sony user. I switched from Canon a few years ago, but the R5 was the first camera that made me interested in checking out Canon again. It has impressive specs. In addition, the build quality and appearance are really clean. It feels great in your hands, and it has a similar feel to what you might expect when you're used to that 5D size camera in a slightly reduced package. It fits your hand really nicely, the grip feels great, which is something that people often complain about when it comes to Sony cameras. Overall, I think Canon does a much better job at creating visually appealing and great feeling camera bodies. In the past, their specs haven't quite kept up, but I think the R5 is their first attempt at really pushing the envelope. Although it feels really good in your hand, I did notice that generally it just felt a little bulkier and bigger than what I'm used to with the Sony a7 cameras. Canon is finally giving us some improvements and customization when it comes to the custom buttons. You've got some on top here that are customizable as well as on the back. The only thing that I think Canon got wrong was putting the power button over here to where you can't turn the camera on and off with your trigger finger. It's nice to be able to operate the camera and turn it on and off one-handed so that when you're using it over extended periods of time, you can turn it off when you're not using it and conserve battery life. They also introduced a new mode dial function, which was a little bit interesting to me. You press the mode dial and then you have to press the info button to switch between photo and video. So just pressing the mode dial and rotating this dial only switches you from the different photo modes, and you have to press the info button to get into the various video modes. Although I got used to it, I appreciate the simplicity of just having a readout on the top of the dial and the simplicity of just rotating to the mode that you're trying to get to. If you know me at all, my motto is usually simple is best, and I think a clear, simple button makes things easier. Another thing I appreciated with the design of this camera was the quiet shutter sound. It doesn't have that click that really resonates and you can hear from a distance. It feels like a really subdued sound that if you got 10-15 feet away, you wouldn't hear it. Next up, I want to talk about autofocus. Canon really stepped up their game with the autofocus in this camera. It felt extremely responsive and very effective. That's originally why I switched from Canon to Sony, was because of the Sony autofocus performance. But I think Canon is making a comeback and they introduced some really effective features. My main priority with an autofocus system is that it's seamless and you don't have to think about it, and I think Canon is getting really close to that effect. As I mentioned at the start, low light performance isn't the intended strong suit of the Canon R5. However, I was happy to see that in terms of photos, I was really comfortable shooting up to ISO 8000, and when it comes to video, I felt like 12,800 was totally usable. For most people, this is going to be plenty of ISO range, and especially when you combine it with the fast RF lenses, I think it's going to be totally adequate for most situations. When it comes to image quality, I'm not much of a pixel peeper. I usually just look at the overall image and see how it feels. With 45 megapixels, there's plenty of room to zoom in and look and crop and get a detailed image that's still large enough to print. In addition, the dynamic range made a huge leap for Canon. That was originally one of the reasons why I switched from Sony to Canon, but now the dynamic range appears to be on par with Sony. In addition, The colors looked really natural, and I felt like the photos were a great starting point when they came into the software to edit in Lightroom. I was able to get the look that I was going for. When it comes to video quality, Canon was really trying to push the envelope with this camera. They're now offering 8K video. In my opinion, that's a bit of a waste for the average hybrid shooter who's probably not going to exceed 4K in their published videos. But it allows you to crop in, and if you really want that resolution, it's an option. However, this comes at a price. It's probably going to cause the camera to overheat, and you're going to run into limited record times. Your computer is going to have a hard time processing the footage, and it's going to take up a ton of storage space. Other than that, you're still getting great 4K. You get 4K up to 120 frames per second, awesome color, and great dynamic range. So when it comes to video, totally a very functional camera. Additionally, when shooting video, the in-body stabilization is awesome. It gives you several options for how much stabilization, and when you combine it with the optical stabilization on some of the RF lenses, it allows handheld shooting to be really smooth. If you want to see more sample footage from the R5, check out this video, linked above. I shot a little sequence about mountain running that I think is a great example of what this camera can do. A lot of the footage was shot handheld, and the color and editing was almost straight out of the camera. A few other features that I really appreciated about the R5, I like that when you turn off the camera to change lenses, the shutter closes, so you keep from getting dust on your sensor. Additionally, I also like that the user interface is really handy. It has a touch screen and a flip screen, so you can easily access all the features and customization that you need. And one last thing that I think is really great about the R5 and one of their RF lenses, if you combine the R5 with the 28-70 f2, this is an awesome package that allows you a consistent mid-range zoom of f2, so you can shoot in low light and shoot events or things where you just want to have one lens and not have to change lenses. I think that's a really powerful combo. If I was to get one camera and one lens, I think that would be the choice for shooting events like weddings or fast-paced hybrid shoots. Overall, I think this is a pretty impressive camera. The specs that are coming on this camera are really great for the hybrid shooter, and as long as you're not shooting in really hot environments where the overheating is going to be an issue, I think this could be an excellent choice. One limiting factor that I found with this camera is that the battery life was not ideal. The battery was exhausted after about 600 images and 2 to 3 hours of shooting. So if that's a concern, you might want to pick up extra batteries. Additionally, I think that this camera is great because you don't have to prioritize photo or video. It has awesome photo specs at 45 megapixels and 12 frames per second, but also awesome video specs at 4K 120 or even 8K. So for the hybrid shooter, you don't have to compromise and choose one camera for video and one camera for stills. And you get all that in a very compact body. So with all those specs, you can expect the price tag on this camera to be a little steep. At $3,900 for just the body, you get what you pay for. I think this camera is great for the hybrid shooter that's going to utilize all those specs, but it's probably overkill for most people. Additionally, you might choose to get two cameras so you have a backup, in which case this camera gets really expensive. Additionally, RF lenses, because they're relatively new, there's not a lot of options as far as buying used. You can adapt the previous EF Canon lenses, but then you add the adapter and the large previous lenses, and you've kind of lost the idea of shooting a mirrorless camera for the compact and small size. So in summary, I really appreciated this camera. It was really fun to shoot. It had great specs and awesome performance, but the price tag is a little steep. For me, I'd rather choose something where I can get two camera bodies and a variety of lenses rather than one really powerful camera body and a really nice lens. 2020 has been an amazing year for camera releases. The leap forward that we've made with cameras like the Canon R5 is quite impressive, and I'm excited to see where things are headed next. And now my obligatory ask for you to like, subscribe, hit me up in the comments if you have questions. Really appreciate the support. Thanks for watching and have a great day.